Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I'm Stu Whiffin. Joining me as ever, Blake Harrison. Hello.
Hello, mate. I'm saying hello like we've just jumped on this call. For the last hour, we have been going over the technical difficulties that is my stupid Mac and trying to delete things and make the Mac work properly. So if I sound like I'm in a slightly irritated mood, it's because of technology.
I was just smiling when I could feel you getting more and more tense. Then I could hear your good lady wife going, "It'll be all right. Well, we just need to do this." And I was thinking,
she was literally saying to me, "Just breathe. Just breathe." I was like, "That's not helping. That's not helping.
I don't want to fucking breathe.
That's making it worse." So yeah, there you go. But yes, we've had some technical difficulties today, but we have got some very interesting stuff to talk about. But before we do, we should mention Fat Candy.
That's what you need now. You need a handful of them freeze-dried Skittles, mate. Little pick-me-up, or a little smile on your face.
Yes, please. Yes.
Well, Fat Candy are freeze-dried sweets, as I've just mentioned. Skittles are just part of the array of retro sweets and all your faves that they freeze-dry and pop them in. Get a pick-and-mix bag. That's the best thing to do because you get a nice little bit of everything and you can work out which ones are your faves and you can go and order a pot of them. But head over to fatcandy.com or give them a follow on the socials and order yourself some. Try them because not only does it show them that their sponsorship of this show works, it also it's good because you also get to save money because they've given us a discount code, which is Sweet MMA. So use that discount code Sweet MMA over at Fat Candy and give them a follow on the socials and try it. You won't regret it because it's a sweetie treat. Well,
how are you, Stu Whiffin? I didn't ask you how you were because I'm so still irritated by technology.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Everything's. I've got an office day today. I've got a nice calm day, so which suited the situation well. I wasn't sort of rushed around, and when your computer started being a bit of a bitch, it was good that I had a bit of time on my hands because it made no difference to my day. But yeah, I'm all right. Thank you, mate. I'm all right. So we are here today to discuss everything that went down in, where was it? Quebec? No. Montreal. Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Yes. Yeah.
UFC 315, headlined by Jack Della Maddalena and Belal Muhammad. There's a bunch of different places that we could kind of start.
Why don't we start with that thing that we spoke about at Christmas where we pick who we think is going to be the champ this year?
Oh, mate. Well, you've lucked out here. I mean,
lucked? Well, don't start upsetting Australian fans again, mate.
Again? Oh, bloody hell. Good job I'm not still in Australia. We'll get to this in a minute. I seem to have upset all of Western Australia. A nation, maybe even. With some just very kind of, and I would say accurate comments that I made. But you picked at the start of the year your champions predictions, and you picked Jack Della Maddalena to be your champ at the end of the year. The reason I say you've lucked out ever so slightly is because Jack would never have got this shot if Shavkat wasn't injured. So that's why I'm saying you've lucked out ever so slightly. But still, credit to you. Well done. I mean, it is only May. There's still 7 months to go, and we will have to get into who would Jack's first title defense be against, because you would imagine he's going to defend that belt before the end of the year. So who that title shot, who's going to get that title shot is a really interesting discussion. Welterweight at the moment is one of the most fascinating divisions when it comes to who's going to be getting the title shot. There's a bunch of possible contenders, and obviously we will get on to Islam Makhachev potentially stepping up in weight. But we can talk briefly. I wasn't going to start with this. I was going to start with the fight because I wanted to give credit to Jack because people can misconstrue what I say all the time. But fuck it. Let's get into all the Instagram comments, shall we? Because we put up a post saying, there's big implications for this fight. It's far reaching. If Jack wins, then Islam's going to step up. That messes up what's going on with the lightweight belt. Who gets the shot? Is it Topuria and Oliveira? Is it Topuria and maybe even Paddy? Like, what happens there? Obviously, there's already been issues with Topuria leaving featherweight, Volks for taking on Lopez, another Australian champion now, a guy we've had on the show multiple times. We love him. I've just come back from Australia. I love Australia. Got nothing against Australia. What I did say was it's crazy that two fighters in Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena, neither of which are stars, have got such far-reaching ripple effects on the UFC as a whole, really, and particularly the welterweight and lightweight divisions. That's what I said. I have had so much heat from definitely Aussie fans, so much heat, like laughing at me because Jack's won. I'm like, I never said he couldn't. I did favour Belal, but I didn't say that Jack couldn't win the fight and that he's terrible, or saying, how is he not a star? He's on such a long win streak. I'm like, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of stardom. Like, you can be like, one of the things I've said to people is Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal would get absolutely smashed by Jack Della. That probably wouldn't even last 2 rounds. Jack Della would smash them.
Yeah.
They are bigger stars. Jake Paul is not interested in fighting Jack Della Maddalena. He's interested in fighting Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, people that are stars. Alex Pereira is a star and someone that Jake Paul's been interested in. I'm not gauging stardom just by who Jake Paul is interested in. Obviously, he wants favourable fights as well. But when you look at Instagram followers, the fact that there was stuff going around about the arena and how many tickets had been given back. My understanding is that in Canada, they bought loads of tickets for UFC 315, realised the main event was Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della, and they went, nah, I don't fancy it. I'm going to give those tickets back. Now, in the end, as far as I'm aware, it was a sellout crowd. But that's because the UFC are the UFC now. And it's the first time they've been to Canada, Montreal, Quebec, for about 10 years. So it's going to get sold out because people want to see the UFC. Casuals just want to go and see the UFC, whatever. But people that bought the tickets originally gave those tickets back. And that's why with a few days to go, there was lots of empty seats in that stadium. Would those seats have been empty if Alex Pereira was fighting? No. Topuria? No. Islam Makhachev? No. Conor? Nate Diaz? Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. I mean, the list could, Charles Oliveira maybe even. Like, the list could go on of the people that I could mention that are bigger stars than Jack. That doesn't mean he can't get there. That doesn't mean that this moment that he had on Saturday night where he beat Belal, and he did it in really brilliant fashion, I thought, as well, doesn't up his stardom. And for goodness sake, if he fights Islam Makhachev before the end of the year and beats Islam Makhachev, that will be a star-making fight because Islam is a star, and if he beats him, that will make Jack a star. Like, there is a difference between being an elite-level fighter and being a champion and being a star. Magomed Ankalaev, on a very long win streak, just beat Alex Pereira, is the champion. Is he a star? We've had loads of conversations throughout the MMA space over the last year or so about, is this one of the times where there's the kind of fewest stars as champions in the UFC? I know I've gone on a long rant there, but it did piss me off that people don't understand the comment that we're trying to make. There's a big difference between saying, oh, he's rubbish.
Just clarify the comment that you was trying to make, not me. I love Australia.
Oh, you can go fuck yourself. But you know what I'm saying? I know I'm going on a rant now just because it did annoy it. The thing is, I don't know whether people are trying to wind me up, in which case, well done, you've succeeded. Or if they are genuinely just too stupid to understand the point being made.
Yeah.
It's like there is a difference between star and being a fantastic fighter and being a champion. You don't care because you weren't getting any fucking heat. I can't wait. Can't wait for Whiffin to come out of one of his takes, and all of a sudden it just goes viral on the gram. And all of a sudden Whiffin's taking all the heat, and I'm just going to sit back with a little bit of popcorn, a little bit, pina colada in a rocking chair, and just watch it all happen. That's what I'm going to do, Whiffin.
What's weird is I've generally, over the history of this podcast, said the most fucking ridiculous shit. And I've never really had any heat. And in fairness, what you said was pretty much on point and wasn't offensive in any way. But fuck me, everyone just proper went for you. I was like, this is glorious.
What it says to me, really, the reality of it is that Jack Della has got a really great core fan base in Australia. He
Yeah.
is, he's not a star, definitely not a global star. I don't even know if he's an Australian star, but there's certainly something there. And Saturday night will have built on that massively.
He's an
Like, if he'd have
Australian star
lost,
now, make no mistake.
well, as a champion, you think he's probably gonna be, right?
Yeah.
But had he not won that fight, you wouldn't consider him a star. I don't know if you would walk around Australia. Like, I was just in Australia. People that I was hanging out with and chatting with, not many of them necessarily knew much about MMA or the UFC at all. But a lot of them had heard of Alexander Volkanovski. When I was walking around Sydney and Volk won against Lopez, it was on a few like news bulletin kind of billboards where you would pick up the ferry and stuff like that. New Australian champion, UFC, Alexander Volkanovski, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was there. So I imagine stuff like that might be happening again now with Jack Della.
He's on the other side of the country, isn't he? He's Perth.
Yes, he's in
Perth.
Perth. Yeah. Whereas Volk's in, I want to say he's like Wollongong or something like that, which is near Sydney.
I think he's in between sort of Sydney and Brisbane way. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it? So, but my point being is that performance and that win and becoming a champion will massively help him reach a kind of national stardom and all that kind of stuff. He's still got a little way to go before he reaches global star. I do think a win over a Makachev or someone like that would achieve that. But it's still a way to go. Like, don't come at me saying I'm wrong. I'm right. I am objectively correct.
Look, you're still a little bit angry because your computer don't work properly, right? And it's not fair. I can't let you continue to take it out on Australia because as a nation, I think they're wonderful people, and I just don't know what your problem is, mate. But well, look, let's talk about the fight itself because it was wonderful. And I'm not just saying this after what's happened. I'm a big fan of Jack Della Maddalena, and I think he's great. And
Harry on with it.
And I thought the fight was fantastic. And so, Issam, I know we've got to remember his name, and he's not a particularly loved fighter, Belal Muhammad, right? He was being booed, on Saturday night in Canada. I don't necessarily have an issue with him. Things I want to talk about Belal right before we get on to Jack's performance, right? What people can't ever say now is that Belal's always like, he's a boring fight. That was not a boring performance. That was a really exciting fight. And he can take a fucking shot because he ate some monsters and he didn't look rattled. Like, he looked, I mean, obviously them shots that were landing were definitely probably not factored into his game plan, which that's what I'd like to start with, like Belal's game plan going at this, because I think it's very clear that Jack had watched the Leon fight and had gone, right, this is what not to do. And he didn't take a backward step. He just kept pushing forwards. And I think he's
maybe he listens to our previous episode because we did kind of say that.
Probably
I think he listened. I wouldn't say it's probably not his coaches. It's probably not the year out where he's learnt loads. It's probably not the 10-week, 6-week training camp or whatever he's had. Probably that he just listened to our last episode.
Yeah, and it's great that, last episode we did have some Australian listeners because we've lost them all now. And I'm going to do a little splinter podcast called Stu Whiffin Down Under. I'm going to do my own MMA one to all my Australian mates. Like, you're not welcome on that one, mate.
No.
But look, I thought the way that Jack was sprawling and was moving was just perfect, and it completely took away everything that Belal has in his arsenal as his kind of go-to. Like, he didn't get the opportunity to do where Leon was taking backward steps. What are you smiling about? What are you all pleased with?
No, I want you to carry on, but I
Right.
feel like I'm going to annoy the Aussies again. But carry
Oh,
on.
for fuck's sake, man. But yeah, I think like Belal just couldn't do what he was. I mean, he made it look so easy against Leon, you know, and Leon's a very, very, high level striker. But I think the way that he was trying to get that distance to fight at a slower pace and get his striking off, just played into Belal's hands. Whereas Jack didn't do that. He was circling, he was moving, and he was pushing forwards, and it just seemed to completely diffuse Belal's kind of go-to, which is like, strike, take you down, strike, take you down, and Jack's takedown defense was fantastic, like really, really good. Yeah, and props to him. Third Aussie to hold a UFC title now. Obviously, Volk's won it back, and obviously Bobby Knuckles as a former champ as well. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I thought his striking was far superior to Belal's, and I think sometimes his striking looks a little sort of rough around the edges, but it's very effective. And yeah, I just thought he looked fantastic. I thought the fight was really intense. I mean, both of them looked pretty bashed up. I mean, Jack probably more so at the end.
No, did you see the image of Bilal's face? Like, I think Dana White put it on his stories or something. Bilal, I think he's got a broken orbital, maybe a broken nose, and he's got the old Robbie Lawler lip.
Oh, I saw that there was a cut to the lip, but I didn't see it like split wide open.
Oh, mate, it looks nasty. It looks
right.
really nasty. I mean, Jack had a huge black eye. His nose looked even worse than normal.
What is your problem?
But it did. It was pushed even further over to one side.
He's got
a boxer's nose.
Oh, Jesus. Well,
again,
on behalf of the podcast, I'd like to apologise to Australia. Honestly, I didn't realise he was going to have such an issue after his computer didn't work properly.
Well, look, I'm about to upset Aussies again, but do you know, I got so petty when I was commenting on some of the Instagram stuff. I got so petty because someone responded saying, "Oh, I bet that's the last time that you underestimate Aussies." And underneath it, I just put, "I doubt it." Because I was just feeling petty and annoyed. Because I was like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was just being like, again, it was an accurate, I'd made an accurate statement. Anyway.
Couldn't let it go though, could you?
I can't let this shit go now. I'm just too pissed off. I think I'm not sleeping well enough. That's the problem.
This advert, this episode now is just an advert to go, right, let's all go up Blake Harrison because he gets the right ump and he's going to row with us.
Fuck, yeah. But yeah. So all right, there's a couple of things.
Okay.
I feel like, and I know again, people are gonna misconstrue it because they're idiots. I want to give props to both guys.
Right.
What we saw, in my opinion, was how much evolution we've seen in both fighters. Jack Della, I'm saying nice things, Australia. Nice things. Jack Della has really improved his takedown defense, as you said, because you look back at the Gilbert Burns fight, and you look back at the Basil Havez fight, and you go, this guy, when he fights someone like Belal, is going to get mauled because his takedown defense wasn't good enough in those fights. He did come out with the wins in both fights, but I know the Burns ones was a knockout, but he was kind of losing that fight up until that point. And then he also didn't do what I said he shouldn't do, and that's if Belal gets to him, don't be jumping guillotines and stuff like that, which is what he did in the number of times in the Basil Havez fight, which showed at the time a bad fight IQ. But he's learned. He's a young fighter. He's learned from that. He's evolved loads. He's had a year and a bit out of the cage. No sign of ring rust whatsoever in Jack Della. And it showed a phenomenal chin as well, because Belal did clip him a few times as well. I thought it was great evolution from Jack Della. From the last time we saw him against Gilbert Burns to now, we're looking at a vastly improved fighter. And this is really exciting because, if I'm honest, I want to get onto this later, but I'm going to throw this in there and then move on. The thought of him versus Islam Makhachev now is really exciting to me. I think that could be a cracking fight. but the evolution was there. We've seen it. It's fantastic. The evolution of Belal Muhammad is that his striking has massively improved. He was able to stand there and trade at times. He lost those trades more often than not, but stand and trade and look like he was giving a great account of himself and causing Jack problems in moments and landing strikes, which is something that I wouldn't have said Belal could have done a year or two ago. So Belal has also improved. Here's where I think Belal went wrong, though, and here's where Australia is going to start saying, I'm taking away from Jack Della. I do think his game plan wasn't great. And I think if you look at the build-up to this fight, Belal Muhammad, his coach, was talking about how he's got hands like Canelo now. Belal Muhammad was mentioning, like, the Canelo stuff and all of that. Like, I've got hands like Canelo, whatever it was he was saying. I do believe he wanted to show Dana White and the UFC and the fans that he can be an exciting fighter. And he did do that, but he did that at the expense of winning, in my opinion, because I don't feel like he shot for enough takedowns early on in the fight. And Jack did stuff a lot of them and do very well. But I think if you're Belal, more again.
Yeah, I know.
It's tiring, but
it's easier to say
but
that. But if Jack's not there to be taken down, then that's more props to Jack.
I think from what I was seeing, I was going, when I was watching the fight live for the first couple of rounds, I was like, why isn't he shooting? Why isn't he shooting?
I think everybody was.
But I personally, I felt like towards the end of the fight, he had a bit more success with his takedowns. And I think he should have done that earlier in the fight. And I think he wanted to strike with Jack Della. And I think that was a huge flaw in how he approached that fight. Me personally, I don't feel like he did what Belal is best at in that fight. Now, he showed other sides to his game. Credit to him. He put on a fantastic fight. And I'm not saying that if Belal had shot more early on, that it would have changed the outcome of the fight. I actually think you could potentially score the fight 50-45 Jack, because I actually scored it, like, I thought rounds 2 and 3 were very close from what I remember, but I remember thinking Jack had done enough throughout most of the rounds to either win 3 or even 5 of them. So I have no problem with 48-47 Jack, but if you told me you scored it 50-45 Jack, I'd go, yeah, sure. Like, I felt like Jack was dominant throughout most of the fight.
It was
48-47,
48-47, 49-46. So.
Yeah. And so again, I agree. I can agree with all of those scorecards. I just feel like Belal will have woken up on Sunday morning going, I think I fucked up here. Again, that's not to say that he would have necessarily won the fight, but I do think he will regret how he approached the early rounds of this fight.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. I can, and yeah, but
you can. Australia can't.
But I do think that the takedowns, the opportunities to take down, when you've got Leon Edwards, right in the centre line in front of you, moving backwards. It's there for the taking. He's moving back towards the cage, whereas Jack wasn't fighting like that. Certainly in the early rounds, the movement was there and not presenting opportunities to be taken down. But
he did way better than Leon. And again, I keep having to repeat myself because I don't want to be misconstrued by people, but it seems so easy that people don't get what you're trying to say. Jack did so well. He was brilliant. His takedown defense was fantastic. He moved really well, way better than what Leon did. But I do just think that Belal could have done more earlier on to try and get it to the ground. And I think he could have tried a bit more. And I do think he will slightly regret some of that.
Right. Well, before we talk about what's next for Jack, because, as you said, and rightly said, so much depended on this fight having, ripples out into, all manner of divisions. So, first of all, let's talk about what's next for Belal, because I think it's important that, we should, I think we should be pretty honest here that I don't think the fans or the UFC particularly warmed to Belal Muhammad. So I don't see that the UFC are going to be going, do you know what? He put in a fantastic fight there. you know, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't. I'll be happy to watch that fight again, but it's not going to happen. And so I think for Belal to get back into title contention, I don't think one win's going to get him another shot. I think he's got a bit of work to do now, just because of, people don't remember the name. And
yeah, I think there's similarities. All those people that were in the room, Belal, Merab, and Kalayev, they've all had their shot at getting the belt, and they've all taken it. And had they not taken it, I don't think they ever would have fought for a belt again.
Leon.
Now, Leon potentially as well. I think Leon had more of a chance because he did have some stardom after the head kick, and he defended the belt a few times and stuff like that. But I think Belal, having never defended the belt, having been a fighter that was on like a 9-fight win streak or something along those lines, and the UFC just really clearly did not want to give him the title shot. Same with Merab, same with Ankalaev in a lot of ways. Once they get the belt, if they lose it quickly, I don't think they're getting a title shot again for a long time. I think they have to put another 3-fight win streak together to become like undeniable. So I think it's going to be really difficult for Belal. I think also what really doesn't help Belal is, man, welterweight is stacked. Welterweight has got so many people waiting, chomping at the bit for that title fight. We've talked about Shavkat, I believe, has just had knee surgery. So I think he's going to be out for a while. I don't think we're going to get, I don't think he's coming back for a while, but he clearly deserves a shot.
So we've got Ian Gary looking solid. We've got Sean Brady looking very good.
Yep.
And obviously
Joaquin Buckley's fighting Usman, and if he wins there, he's got a I don't think as strong a claim as Ian and Brady, and obviously not Shavkat. And then there's Makhachev, who, if there's a champion that can say, hang on a minute, I deserve to go up in weight and be a 2-weight world champ, I can't really think of anyone outside of Makhachev that's earned it more at the moment. So yeah, so welterweight stats. So I don't see Belal having a crack at the belt for a long time. So it makes you think, I think he's old as well. I think Belal's like 36, 37. So I don't see him getting a title shot almost ever. But he's going to have to get like 3 wins to get a title shot now, I think. So what do you do? Do you just become the guy that people have to go through, hope that you rack up enough wins and get your title shot?
No.
Or do you move up in weight?
Oh, no. I'm
not saying I would fancy his chances, but do you think give it a go? Do you think just jump straight up there and go, I'll fight one of the top 5 guys at middleweight because it's less stacked? There's, Carl Borralio's there that needs to fight. Imavov needs a fight. A lot of these people are complaining about not fighting as well. They haven't announced DDP Khamzat Chimaev, but it looks like that will happen. And so you're like, well, does Belal go, screw it, give me a middleweight fight against someone in the top 5? I don't even know if the UFC would give him that. But if they were to, and if he were to beat a Carl Borralio and Imavov, he's immediately like, well, look, I'm a former champion of previous weight class. I deserve a shot now because I've just beat the top 5 guy. And if he loses, you just come back down to welterweight and do the same thing anyway. Like, just fight a Buckley, a Morales, a Kamaru Usman, or, whatever it is that is going on at the time. Because you're a former champion in that division.
Yeah,
is it a free shot? I don't know.
I think we got to look at, if the Makhachev fight happens, okay, that leaves other fighters that are, thinking they're due their shot. Obviously, Ian Gary was out there as the backup fighter this weekend. So I think that does leave Ian Gary and Sean Brady floating about, So whether that fight is made as, basically, if Shavkat's going to be out for a while, then I think that the number 1 contender shot should be, made from that, a fight between Gary and Sean Brady. If Makhachev doesn't come up, I don't know. I think if he doesn't come up, I honestly think Ilya steamrolls Islam Makhachev. Like, I don't know if he's going to get that shot straight away. I don't know. Like, but I wonder, like, I know he's been saying for a long time, you know, if Belal's not champ, I want to go up and, you know, get double champ status. But at what cost does he vacate that belt? You know, is there an interim? Like, yeah, I'll be interested to know where that all goes. But for me, I mean, you just got to feel for Shavkat, really, haven't you? Because,
Yeah.
you know,
I
he
mean,
must be sitting there
it's
watching
injuries.
all of
What can
this
you do?
playing out around him, just thinking, oh man, like, I should be fighting for that belt now. But yeah, I don't know. I think if we see Jack Della versus Islam Makhachev, I'm not counting out Jack Della Maddalena at all.
No, it's tricky. I think this is all as well. It's complicated for the UFC to organise this because I believe 317 June 29th is International Fight Week, and they do not have a main event for that fight. And I think from what I'm hearing, they might be scrambling around a little bit. So I think the idea that they probably wanted was Islam versus Topuria. But Islam saying, hang on a minute, I don't want to have to fight another featherweight. And I do understand that. He's got 4 title wins, the most title defenses of any lightweight champion ever. And he's fought 2 actual featherweights. And was it? Hang on, who's his title? 2 Volk, which is the actual featherweights. And then
Max.
who else did he beat?
Oh,
Max.
No, yeah.
No, he didn't beat Max. Who was Makhachev's last? People are screaming at their phones or wherever they're listening to this right now. Who was Makhachev's? Renato Moicano,
Yeah.
who was previously a featherweight, and he obviously won the belt of Oliveira, who was previously a featherweight, and Dustin Poirier, who was previously a featherweight. But I see Dustin very much as a lightweight. But basically, point being, is that he has earned the right to move up, and other people have had the chance to move up against him. And so I can understand why he doesn't want to fight Topuria. If they want that fight for June, Islam Makhachev is capable of potentially fighting in June and then fighting again in October, November in Abu Dhabi or wherever, and fighting Jack Della there. So he could still do both. He could fight Topuria and then fight against Jack Della. But
does he get the Jack Della shot?
Because if
Topuria beats him,
no, I don't think so. I don't see how you can say go up a weight class and fight the champ if you've just been beaten for your belt. It's not possible. So Islam's going, I want to be double champ. I'm not going to risk fighting Topuria and give another featherweight a crack. I want to go up and fight Jack Della in a fight that he thinks he's got every chance of winning. And I would say, size matters. So there's part of me that would want to favour Jack, but I just think Islam's so good, and there's no way Islam's getting smashed around the octagon in parts like Belal did. I'm not saying that Jack wouldn't be able to beat him, but I think Islam is a much more defensively sound striker than Belal Muhammad by quite a long way. I wonder if it would end up being a striking battle because maybe Jack would be too big for Islam to take down. But I do believe Islam technically will be a better wrestler than Belal Muhammad. But it'll be a fascinating fight. I want to see that fight, but I also really want to see Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. But it's tricky. It's like, what do you do? And then if you need a headliner for International Fight Week on June 29th, which is what, 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away, something like that. Say Islam's like, no, I'm moving up. Then you've got Topuria going, well, I want to be the lightweight champ. Give me Oliveira. Give me Paddy Pimblett. Give me Justin Gaethje, whoever it might be. But then there's the issue of Islam wants to be double champ. Topuria's just vacated his belt to become a champion. He wasn't allowed to be double champ. So does Topuria fight for an interim belt? He'll probably go, no, I don't want to fight for an interim belt. I want to fight for the real belt. And Islam's going, but I don't want to give up the real belt. I want to be double champ. I just think it's a really kind of tricky situation. The UFC might have to be really harsh on someone and either strip Islam or say to Topuria, you have to fight for an interim because there's nothing else. Either that or don't fight.
It's just stop.
And
If people want to go and fight in other divisions, great. You know, win titles at 2 different, weights. I love it. But don't go up and then go, oh yeah, I like it up here. I still want my belt down there, but I'll come back down there and fight at some point, because it's not fair on all the contenders that are sitting there. And then you start throwing interims in there. We don't want it. Like, if you want to move up divisions, move up division, vacate, move up. Simple.
But has Islam not earned the right to move up, fight Jack, and if he wins, then vacate, rather than having to vacate before moving up?
What? And so
I understand what you're saying. Like he's given Volk 2 opportunities to be a double champ. Why shouldn't he get the opportunity to be a double champ?
I mean, again, I'm not interested in Volk getting them shots back then. You know, obviously I like Volk and I want him to win fights, but the idea of holding 2 belts in 2 divisions, it just slows up the process for both divisions, and it also it's just really unfair on contenders that aren't getting their shot because someone's a bigger star in another weight division. Like, and I'm not a fan of it.
I personally would not have a problem with saying, and again, a lot of it is down to the UFC schedule rather than what's right or wrong or meritocratic or anything like that. It's about the UFC schedule. So, I mean, Ariel Helwani was talking recently about the fact that did you see Alex Pereira put out like some kind of tweet slagging off the UFC, and then he said he was hacked, and Ariel's saying, well, it looks like they've asked him to be the main event in June when he wasn't ready, and if he's not available to fight Ankalaev in a rematch to get his belt back, then maybe they'll go another way. Again, this is what I've taken from what Helwani was saying. And so he's then got annoyed at that because he's like, I've stepped in so many times to help you out. But what it shows is the UFC are going, this isn't working. Islam's being difficult. Ilya's being difficult. However it's working out, it's not working for us. We've got no one. 6 weeks' time, International Fight Week, huge card. We need this to happen. And it's not happening. I personally wouldn't mind if they went, your headliner for International Fight Week is Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the interim lightweight belt. The winner of that, by the end of the year, will either have a fight booked to fight Islam Makhachev to unify the belt, or if Islam Makhachev wins, he has to vacate immediately if he doesn't want to defend his lightweight belt, and they become the undisputed champ just by default. I think it would be harsh to strip Islam after everything he's achieved. If that's what you think should happen, I'm not going to argue too vehemently against you. But I think Islam, pound for pound fighter on the planet, 4 title defenses, the most of any lightweight champion. He's given opportunities to people in the weight class below him and taken fights on just a few days or whatever's notice against Renato Moicano. He's done the UFC favors. I think he's owed this opportunity to step up in weight and fight Jack Dalla and potentially be a double weight champ. But if he doesn't want to defend the lightweight belt after getting that belt, if he were to get that belt, then he should just vacate.
Okay.
But I think he's earned the right.
All right. If you think he's earned the right to go up and take a belt off an Australian, that's fine. No problem, mate. Okay. All right. Well, look, there was plenty more fights on the card. So let's have a look. There's obviously another title fight, which was Valentino versus Manon Fiorot. I'm going to live with you. I feel it's a bit boring.
It wasn't the best fight in the world, but I found it slightly compelling, and I found it interesting that Manon clearly had a terrible first round.
Yeah.
Like, for someone that's never fought for a belt before to be going up against one of the greatest of all time, well, definitely without dispute, the greatest flyweight women's champ of all time. But definitely probably top 2 women's MMA fighters of all time. Valentina behind Amanda Nunes, I'm guessing. for her to have such a poor first round and look like maybe her nose was broken in that round as well,
Oh,
for her to
definitely.
come back in the manner that she did, even though it was maybe a lot of the time using tactics of pushing up against the fence, using her strength, knees to the back of the thigh, stuff like that, you could just see Manon's face grimacing every time she pushed Valentina up against the cage, and her nose would rub against Valentina's shoulder, or she'd get an arm in the face. You could see her grimacing with pain, and she just plowed through and kept going through it. I actually have a lot of respect for the fact that Manon kept going in that fight and kept showing like real kind of championship material, like and a will to win. She just came up against someone that is just the elite of the elite. And as much as we're saying Valentina is declining, and I do think she is declining. I don't think you can say just because she's won, she's not declining. I just think 5 years ago, this is a fight where she might have finished Manon. And now she's scraping through the decisions, because I scored it for Valentina, but only 3-2. I think I gave Valentina, obviously, round 1. She did a lot of damage. Round 2, I gave to Manon. Round 3, I gave to Manon. It was close, but I gave it to Manon. And then rounds 4 and 5, I gave to Shevchenko. So she was entering round 5, 2-2.
I mean, all judges went 48-47.
Yeah, so there you go. So I'm pretty sure I don't know what rounds they scored, but I'm assuming the same as me.
I don't think Manon's stock goes down at all. I think, like, you
No.
know, I think she showed that she's probably the second best in the world, you know, in that division. But I think ultimately we've got to see what's next for Valentina. And I guess there's
2 options.
Okay, so Weili has got to be one of them.
I think that's the other option is Natalia Silva, because she's
Oh
on a
my
great win
Lord.
streak.
I mean,
Yeah.
that if I just watched that fight against Alexa Grasso, I'd be thinking, I do not want to get in an octagon with Natalia Silva. I thought, I mean, we'll get on to that. She looked incredible.
Yeah. I mean, they're the 2 options, right? Natalia Silva has earned it. What is she on, like a 6-fight win streak now or something like that? She's putting on good performances. They're not like a barn burner of a fight, but you just watch her and you go, how does someone catch you? You're on your bike the whole time.
Yeah.
Great side kicks, great punches, such good speed. Like, she just, I just think she's
13-fight win
such a
streak outside of UFC included as well.
like, she just looks phenomenal, man. I've got a real, I really like Natalia Silva. I've liked her for a while. I can't remember who her last fight was against. I don't know if it was Andrade or if it was someone else. I'd have to look it up. But I remember saying on this show, I was like, it's like poetry in motion. There is artistry to what she does and how she kicks and the speed she uses. Big fan of Natalia Silva. So I would be interested in seeing Shevchenko defend against Natalia Silva, and Natalia has earned it. However, we're staring down the barrel of potentially one of the greatest female fights of all time on paper in Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili. Like, you've got Nunes, Valentina, and then the next spot for like greatest female fighter after that. I mean, I'm excluding sort of Ronda Rousey from this just because she had the stardom and all that kind of stuff, and maybe I shouldn't be excluding her, but in terms of just in octagon performances of late, whilst the talent level of women in the UFC has kind of gone up, to see Zhang Weili or Rose Namajunas or Joanna Jacek in that spot makes sense, and probably more so Zhang Weili than the other two. So Valentina versus Zhang Weili, you're looking at 2 out of maybe 3 of the greatest female fighters of all time going up against each other. That's a fight we want to see, right? It's a fight that's very exciting.
And if Zhang wins that, she's starting putting herself in the running for being one of the greatest of all time as well. Her career's nowhere near done. And and I think, you know, we put Nunes and Chevy up there, and rightly so. But as you say, maybe, you know, we don't really know exactly what's going on with Nunes, but, you know, I think it is fair to say that Chevy is probably, you know, entering the twilight years of her career, and I don't see that being the case for Zhang. I think there's there's plenty more to be seen there, and I think she can put herself up there.
But
For me, I think let's make that fight happen while we can, whilst
yeah,
Chevy's still looking, like a very, very high level fighter with that belt. Let's make that happen. I think that would be a fantastic fight. For Natalia Silva, I think she's probably, after beating Grasso, has made herself probably going to be ranked number one. And I think that would be a really exciting striking match, to see that boxing style of hers, of that stick and move, like how that plays out against Valentina. I'm really excited to see
well,
what sort of fight that'll throw up. I don't think there's a bad fight to be made there. Either or, I'm all over it. But I think purely for timing, I'd like to see Valentina fight Weili, just because I want to see it before one of them's not got a belt or one of them's too old.
I completely agree with you. I think it feels slightly harsh on Silva. I think Valentina would have to be trying to grapple her ass off to try and deal with Natalia Silva. And it does feel slightly harsh on her, but I think she's young, she's fresh. I don't think she needs another fight. I think Natalia Silva, again, feels harsh to say sit and wait. Hopefully you can get Valentina back quickly. But if you can say to Natalia Silva, sorry, just sit out for 9 months or something like that, we want to get this other fight made. Hopefully that'll work out. If not, you'd have to give her another fight, maybe against the winner of Erin Blanchfield and Macy Barber or something like that. But to see Zhang Weili versus Valentina now, this is the time, isn't it? Because the challengers are just nowhere near as compelling. The other challengers, knowing it, because we talked about Natalia Silva, and I do want to see that fight. I do love Natalia Silva, but I'd equally like to see Natalia Silva versus Zhang Weili if Zhang beat Valentina. I'm not really massively interested in Virna Jandiroba versus Zhang Weili. Like, it's not, again, maybe that's harsh on Virna Jandiroba. She is on a win streak. She's looked really good. I'm just not overly bothered by it. It doesn't captivate me in the same way. So to have like imagine if they did do a big New York card in November, which they like to do. Sometimes they like to put 3 title fights on it, stuff like that. You imagine if finally it was John Jones versus Tommy Aspinall, and also underneath it you had Valentina versus Zhang Weili. I mean, that would be an absolutely cracking top 2 fights on a card.
Yeah,
I'd take that all day long. And it would make a lot of sense, and it does feel like that is the best time for it is now, effectively.
Okay. Well, look, I want to talk about, we saw a legend retire on Saturday evening, but before we talk about that legend, we also saw Vitor Belfort get inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, and when you watch that montage they put together, he has fought everyone, like absolutely everyone. It was just like, oh my God, I forgot he fought him. Oh, I forgot he fought him. And I mean, obviously pre-TR, when they moved and put a stop on the testosterone replacement, we saw, a slightly more depleted Vitor. But when he was jacked on that stuff, when he come back, mate, I would not want to be anywhere near that. He looked terrifying, as I'm sure a lot of fighters will, attest to.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see a huge amount of Vitor Belfort in my fandom. A lot of what I remember him for is that he's the guy that effectively detached Michael Bisping's retina, and it was whilst he was on TRT. So I have mixed feelings about him going into like the Hall of Fame and stuff, but equally he did do a lot. As you say, he sort of fought everyone and all that stuff, and it was at a time where a lot of people were on that stuff. I don't know that necessarily excuses it, I'm not sure, but like, it certainly doesn't excuse it in terms of his fight with Michael Bisping, who wasn't on that stuff. So, and he did life-altering damage to Michael Bisping, So it's not. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it.
All right.
Because
just want to
of
apologise to Brazil as well. Sorry, guys. Right. Let's try and pull it back by talking about something positive from Brazil. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to talk about Jose Aldo. I mean, what a fight. What a fight.
I mean, crazy third round, great fight. I think I might have even scored it for Aldo, funnily enough. But yeah, did you score it? Did you focus on
Yeah, I
scoring
thought
as
he
well?
was looking good. I mean, his style, like, he was pure Muay Thai. He was literally Muay Thai style, bouncing the lead leg quite a lot, more so than I remember seeing from Aldo. I'm a big fan of seeing that. But I thought he was going to get him out there, and I think Aldo thought he was going to get him out there with that
Yeah.
sort of barrage of throwing a couple of soccer kicks in there and some knees, and I mean, you know, he just kept stinging his body, and I think he just threw everything at trying to get him out of there. Obviously, he come in much, you know, he was way overweight.
Yeah,
And
they could. It was the night before, wasn't it? They made it a
yeah,
featherweight fight because Aldo was nowhere near making it. So there's some maybe justice in the fact that Zahabi got the win because
yeah,
it
oh,
was Aldo's
absolutely,
fault messing up the weight stuff.
and he
But
blew
you just
himself
feel
out.
for Aldo, don't you?
He
Yeah,
blew
he did.
himself out. The minute
I
he
mean,
finished that flurry, he literally looked at the clock, and you
with
just
3 and
see
a bit
him,
minutes to go.
and just must have thought, ah, fuck. Like, he
Yeah,
looked depleted, didn't he?
yeah. I mean, how did Ayman Zahabi stay conscious after that? Like, it was like a proper, like, pride soccer kick type thing. I was genuinely
Two.
thinking to myself, I was thinking to myself, that's illegal, isn't it? But he wasn't. It was just like perfectly timed that he was
Yeah.
just off the canvas enough.
Mm.
Yeah, insane, man. Absolutely insane. Unbelievable. Yeah, just a great fight. And I feel so sorry for Aldo because if you go back through his recent career, you could easily say he beat a lot of the people that he lost to. Was it Mario Bautista? This fight against Zahabi? I don't know. There was a few of them in this run since he returned to the UFC where you're like, oh, he's been screwed out of a decision there. And I remember, was it when he dropped down to bantamweight? He fought Marlon Moraes and the judges gave it to Moraes, and I was like, Aldo won that fight. Now, he did actually get a title shot afterwards because the UFC were even like, no, Aldo won that fight. We could all see it. But yeah, man, it's what a great career. I know that a lot of people, because of the nature of the sport, got into it with the Conor McGregor thing, so they never saw the greatness of Jose Aldo. And I probably put myself a little bit in that camp because I didn't see the WEC days. And when we think about the history of Jose Aldo, the WEC, for those that didn't know, was basically the UFC for smaller weight classes. It was owned by Zuffa, but the UFC didn't do weight classes under like welterweight or middleweight or something like that. So they had a separate organization for the smaller weight classes called the WEC. And that was Uriah Faber, Jose Aldo, Donald Cerrone, like people like
Dominic Cruz,
that. Dominic Cruz, exactly.
Brad Pickett,
all of those people. Yeah, all of
Demetrius
those people
Johnson.
were in the WEC.
Mm.
Yes, all those people were in the WEC. Jose Aldo was champ of the bantamweight division from the WEC into his UFC reign for about 9 years. He had loads of title defenses against top opposition. And I think if you include the WEC rather than just the UFC, because again, WEC was sort of UFC anyway, Jose Aldo is the youngest champion under the Zuffa company of all time, not John Jones. I think he was a few months younger than what John Jones was when he won his UFC title. It's semantics, it is what it is, but if you like to think of it that way and start to go, well, it's unfair not to include the WEC because the smaller weight classes weren't allowed in the UFC at the time, then you would say that Jose Aldo is the youngest UFC/Zuffa champion that there's been. So we need to really kind of give him the credit he deserves. And I think a lot of people just go, oh, the guy that got smoked by Conor.
No, but then after
more
that,
than that,
he went on another tear, like,
Yeah.
and was looking so good. And I think the UFC have done him a dirty. You know, like they've just fed him a couple of absolute, you know, absolute beasts that are on tears, and they've fed them to,
But
like,
not
they've fed
even ones with like big names.
like that's the
not-
thing. Like they should
They've
have
booked
just
him badly, haven't they?
yes, they should have just given him a couple of sort of nice legacy fights to kind of just, you know,
Yeah.
with a couple of other sort of vets that would have looked would have been fun fights,
Yeah.
and I think probably I'll say a little bit, closer in levels. But like I say, he looked fantastic at the weekend, but the weight cut, and he said his heart's not in it anymore. And obviously we see him take the gloves off at the
Yeah.
weekend, and he's a Hall of Famer already, and he's just an absolute legend. But I mean, we've sort of spoken about the Natalia Silva fight, and I mean, Alexa Grasso did not know what to do. She was just walking her down, but she was never there long enough for Alexa Grasso to do anything. And
None.
it 30-27 on all the scorecards, and I think Silva must, she's got to be she's probably number one contender now, and I don't know where this leaves Grasso. Obviously a former champ. There's fun fights to be had there, but
She could fight Manon. Makes sense, doesn't it?
yeah, I get that. But I mean, you was all upset because Benoit never got the fight that we thought we was going to see,
Yeah.
and poor old Prepelec, he got pulled in, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the fight you want to get a phone call in it 24 hours. Go, oh, by the way, you like to jump in and fight Benoit Saint Denis. And I thought Benoit looked ridiculously good.
I kind of think this couldn't have worked out better for Benoit Saint Denis, actually, because he desperately needed a win.
Yeah.
Lost to Poirier, and then got just destroyed by Renato Moicano. And you're like, I think it's difficult to
Did
do
you say
because
to
when
Poirier?
you
Oh, Poirier.
Poirier,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, to Poirier,
Right. Yeah, I was thinking, huh?
but yeah, I just think when you are in that position where you've suffered quite a devastating loss, back-to-back losses after doing really well, your confidence is going to be knocked. You almost want to have a fight like this, almost be treated like a boxer and go, we're going to take a huge step back just to get you a win, and then we'll put you back in the mix a little bit. We're going to build you back up again. But you can't really do that in the UFC. When you've got a number next to your name, there's all these killers, especially in something like the lightweight division, all these killers up and coming trying to get that number on their name.
Yeah.
And it means you're just fighting so many tough guys back to back to back that it must be so easy to just go on like a mental skid and just kind of think, I've not got it. I thought I had it. I don't have it. And the damage it must do to your confidence and everything is going to be huge. Whereas now he had like 10-8 in the first round I gave Benoit Saint Denis. It was phenomenal. And then he get the finish in the second round. It couldn't have played out better. Had he fought Joel Alvarez, maybe he would have got the win. But Joel Alvarez is such a tough guy, such a good striker. He could have been definitely in a situation where he was staring down free fight losing streak, or just grinded out a victory barely, something like that. This is exactly what he needed. With all due respect to Prepelec, it was easy for Benoit Saint Denis. And now he can fight a Joel Alvarez or someone like that with just that little bit of confidence back in his system. But it's just something that I would like to see happen for more people in MMA. But it's, I guess, kind of impossible to make happen unless you go, I'm going to take my fighter out the rankings. UFC, take him out of the rankings. We want to fight someone way back to just build him up again. But then the UFC might go, all right, then it's going to take you 3 fights to get a fight back in the rankings. And he's like, well, so what can you do? As I say, you've got all these young, hungry fighters ready to take that number. You just got to keep defending it. And luckily, he ended up, through circumstance, getting a much easier fight than he would have got had he fought Joel Alvarez, I think. So, yeah, he calls for Gamrot, he calls for Hooker, he called for Gaethje. I don't think he gets any of those fights. Gamrot hasn't fought in quite a while now, I think. I don't know what's on the cards for Gamrot. Gaethje's looking at bigger fights. Dan Hooker probably should be looking for bigger fights as well. Dan Hooker probably wants the Gaethje fight and stuff like that.
Benoit Dan Hooker, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but I ain't mad at that.
I wouldn't be mad at it. I mean, I do think it'll be Benoit just trying to take him down a lot of the time. But I think Benoit Gamrot is actually a great fight. I'd be really interested in that fight. But I don't know what Gamrot's after. I mean, poor old Gamrot. He was the frigging backup fighter when Islam ended up fighting Volk the second time. They just bypassed Gamrot and said, we know you're the backup fighter, but we don't want you. And get Volk in on 12 days' notice. God, it's just not gone well for Gamrot, has it? I know he lose to Dan Hooker or some as well, but that's so obviously he's had that loss, but it just not gone well for Gamrot. He was in a really great position at one point. Um, but yeah, I don't know what you do with Benoit Saint Denis next. I wonder if you just rebook the Joel Alvarez fight.
Yeah, I think
That makes
I
sense
think
as
that
well.
makes sense to me. Some other fights on there. I mean, Mike Malott headlined the prelims, and
Brutal KO.
yeah, boy, like
Just bounced his head off the canvas.
yeah, I thought it was a pretty balanced first round, but yeah, straight out in that second round, and good night.
Yeah. Jasmine Jasdavicius. Oh my God, she looks good. She's on another long win streak.
50 G's in her back pocket now as well.
50 G's, baby. She needs to be looking at a top 5 fighter next. Maybe she gets the winner of Blanchfield versus Barbara. I mean, it's again, flyweight's becoming tricky now if Zhang Weili comes up. This is what happens when fighters move up in weight. It does cause some log jams, some difficulties in the divisions. But that's just what happens when you try and make great fights sometimes. Jasdavicius, Blanchfield, Barber, maybe a Rose Namajunas. There's definitely fights that she can have there. She's got to be one away, maybe 2 if things are harsh, but 1 away from a title shot. But Andrade just doesn't look like herself anymore, I don't think. I
No.
think maybe she needs to go back down to straw weight. Maybe she just doesn't have the strength and the wrestling acumen to deal with people in that higher weight class. I don't know, but I maybe we need to see her back down at straw weight. But Andrade hasn't looked like the kind of beast that she was a few years ago for a while now. So yeah, not sure what to do with her anymore.
We saw a win from former guest of the show, Modestas Bukauskas over Cutelabra. Close fight, I thought.
Very close fight. A lot of the commentators were not happy with the decision.
Yeah.
They seem to be, and I can sort of see where they were coming from. Modestas was way less active than Cutelaba, but he was able to evade a lot of the strikes. He didn't get hit that much. He just wasn't doing a huge amount either, but clearly, I can't remember exactly what the scorecard said. I think, was it like 30-27 one way and then 30-27 the other way and then 29-28?
Yeah, whoever scored every
to,
round to Modestas, like, got no place judging.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
Look, we obviously want Modestas to win. You know, he's
100%.
such a nice guy. And yeah, I'll be honest. I thought, you know, he done well to get that win because I thought it was very, very tight.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that is a fair comment. But good luck to him. He's now on like a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. I don't think he's ever been on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. So good for him. That's brilliant. And hopefully he can be looking at another good fight coming up. I just think when you look at him fighting, he's quick, he's strong, he's powerful, he looks great getting off the bus, all those kind of things. Just want him to maybe just do a little more. I mean, it's easier said than done because the guys up at light heavyweight are huge and you've got to kind of step into the firing line to deliver your own shots. But he had a couple of moments that even the commentators were mentioning, like it looked good, like 1-2, 1-2. I remember them talking about that a lot, and it did look like he snapped Cutelaba's head back.
His arms are huge, Modestas'
They
arms.
are, yeah. I don't know what it is that he needs, but there's something there where you just think if you can just push forward a little bit more at times. He evaded really well, and his defensive striking looked really good. We just need a bit more offense from him because it could have been really easy for Cutelaba to win that fight just by pressing and doing a little bit more because it didn't look like Modestas was throwing enough strikes to keep up with Cutelaba at times. So that's why obviously one judge has scored it 30-27 Cutelaba. So yeah, but hopefully in his next fight, Modestas will get back in the gym, keep working with Tom and the guys up there, and do well because, you know, as we said, Modestas, lovely guy. We want to see him do well, and I think he is improving.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, just Navajo Sterling. I did fast forward bits of this fight because I was trying to get it in quickly. Got a nice finish in the 3rd round of Ursulan. Navajo Sterling just kind of keeps the hype train going. He's very green. He needs a long time, Navajo Sterling. He doesn't look anywhere near like, let's throw him into a ranked fight now or anything like that. He needs more time, but he's young. and I think that's okay. I think he just needs a little bit more time and a few more wins before we start pushing him too far. But he's got something for sure, and the finish was a huge right hand that really rocked Urslan, and then he followed it up with strikes. So yeah, that was about it for UFC 315, I believe. Do you want to
Absolutely.
mention anything that happened over in the PFL?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to a former guest of the show, Paul Hughes, just cementing his status as one of the best in the world in that weight division, and I'm sure now he's calling out for a rematch, and I hope they give it to him. I really do.
Yeah.
Like, we've spoke to multiple fighters that have trained with Paul Hughes, and most of them have said that he's one of the greatest in the world, and they just say he's got something special, and every time he gets in that octagon, we see it, and I hope he makes his money while he's young over in the PFL, and I hope that we do at some point get to see him in the UFC, because what a fighter.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, looks great. Usman Nurmagomedov, that fight, that rematch will be massive. I mean, a lot of people have said that first fight was like the best fight the PFL have ever put on. The rematch will be highly anticipated. It'd be crazy if they don't do everything they can to try and make it happen. So best of luck to Paul Hughes. With that, are we done?
Yeah, I think so. Head over to Fat Candy and give him a follow on Instagram or TikTok, and buy yourself some sweets and use that discount code SWEETMMA. Blake and I will be back very soon. In the meantime, make sure you've subscribed to us over on YouTube if you've not done that already. And I don't know what we got next week. We got a card this weekend, and we got Gilbert Burns.
Gilbert Burns is taking on Morales.
Correct.
Michael Morales.
Correct.
I don't know what else is on that card, but that is a really interesting main event. And again, welterweight just keeps going. If Morales gets a win over Gilbert Burns, he's throwing his hat into the ring, not necessarily for a title shot yet, but certainly as someone to watch out for, and someone over the next year that might be upsetting some people, and as I say, just getting closer to that belt and trying to step in the way of some of the other contenders.
Absolutely, and best of luck to multiple time guest of the show, Paul Craig, who's on that card as well. So best of luck, Paul.
Yes,
and yeah, we'll be back next week to discuss, I'm sure, some of the action and some other bits and bobs that has been going on in the world of MMA.
Yeah, boy. Bye.